Hello everyone, and this is a basic tutorial on the new vellum solver in Houdini 17. Now this is not meant for absolute beginners in the sense that if you are just starting out with Houdini, this can be a little complicated. But it's not very complicated either. So if you have basic knowledge of Houdini, you should be able to do this. Okay, but as I said, like if you're an absolute beginner, then this is not for you. Okay, so the vellum solver is kind of like an update to the older grain solver. Like it's the grain solver but with newer technology, so it's a lot faster and it's also supposed to be a lot stable, even though I haven't really done anything very complicated with it, so I can't really comment on stability. But it is, as I said, it is fairly simple to use and it is really fast. So it can be used for three things. You can use it for hair, you can use it for cloth, and you can also use it for grains, and everything can also interact with each other. And the nicest thing that they have done with this version is that you can do all of it at SOP level. Like you can still do it in DOPS, but you can also do a lot of stuff at SOP level itself. So it makes the process a lot simpler. Okay, so we're going to start off with doing basic hair, and then I'll do cloth, and finally I'll do grains. Okay, so I'll just do like simple examples of all of them so you get an idea of how to work with it. So I'll start off with a simple sphere, or let's take one of the test objects. So let's take pig head, and yeah, it takes a second to come in. Okay, and let's do one thing. I'm going to get rid of the color and everything. So take an attribute delete, and I'm just going to get rid of it'll have like a material path. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then let's just animate this. So I'm going to take a transform and I am going to animate this. So we'll move it here and then we'll do alt click. All the keyframing stuff that used to be here is now to the left hand side. And this has like other options in here, but yeah, there's like your big keyframe button, so I can click that, and then I can come ahead to, let's try 120, and I'll just move it there, and I can click the keyframe again. Okay, and I'll just switch on real time. Okay, so we just have like a basic animation happening, and then I can take a hair generate. I'm going to keep the density fairly low, so we'll keep the density to about 50. Okay. And let's just connect the skin, and you should be able to see hair. And then if I play this, you should get hair sort of moving along with it. Okay, so we'll do a couple of things. I'll turn off use guides, and I will increase the length a fair bit so we can at least get some amount of dynamics happening over there. And the next thing we want to do, and this is important, okay, so for the hair to sort of stick to the geometry, you need to make sure that the base points act as pins to the geometry. So in order to do that, what you need to do is like this doesn't generate any groups or anything. Okay, so we need to generate that group. So you do that through a for each. So just take a for each primitive, and we're going to just create a group of the first point. So since they all start from below, the first point is always going to be 0. Like that point is always going to be 0. Okay. So we bring this in, and all I have to do is take a group node and change this to points. We'll call it roots. You can call it anything you want. And the base group will be 0. So if you come in here, we should have 665. See, you have 665 polygons, and we have 665 points, the base points in root. Okay, in our group called roots. So if you want to check it, we can give it a color and just check it. Like if I give it a color here, and I can pick up roots, and let's say if I give it red, see, so there you go. You can see like the base point is red for all of them. Okay, so this is the basic. Like this setup you have to do if you're doing hair. I haven't figured out any other way so far because it doesn't seem to automatically generate like a roots group. But yeah, this you will have to do. Okay, then the rest is fairly simple. You'll get something called a vellum configure, okay, which is essentially a variation of the vellum constraints node. Okay, like these are all like vellum constraint nodes, just each one is like they've set the default values to something. So we can take vellum configure here. So you put that in and plug in to the left, and that's basically it. Like you don't need to do more than that. Just what we need to define is we need to define the root values. So you'll find something called pin to animation and click there and you can pick up roots. See, there you go. So it generates the roots. And yeah, I think that's basically it. We can turn on match animation, but not right now. And then the rest is we need to take a vellum solver. So just type in solver and you'll get, okay, and we'll get vellum solver. And what you need is it needs two basic inputs. The middle one is constraints. So all the constraints that have been generated, those need to come in, and the base geometry needs to come in. The last node is for collision. Okay, so that's optional. You want to take that, you can take that, but we will bring in the collision of the base geometry. Anyway, so let's bring this in and let's bring in the constraint. And if you just play this right now, it should work. So if I just come in over here and if you press play, there you go. So it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I think we need to turn on pin to animation. Yeah, okay, let's try this again. Yeah, there you go. So if you don't turn on match animation, it doesn't pick up the animation. So now what we can also do along with this is we can bring in the base geometry that we have. So I'll just do like an alt click here and bring that into the last input and see, you'll see like the big head coming in, and let's press play and there you go, like it will collide with the head. It's fairly fast, like this is about 600 curves and it does it almost real time. So I'll just let it solve till like the 120th frame that we had done. Yeah, let's do one thing. Let's make it slightly faster. So I can just come in here and I'll pick up this frame, and like what you do is if you've never done this before, then keep shift pressed and drag a box in the timeline and then middle click and we can pull it closer. And I can do the same thing with this as well. So I can just take the first keyframe and move that a little ahead. Okay. And if you don't want to see the collision geometry, you can come into the vellum solver and then in visualize, you can turn off show collision. So you won't get to see that. Anyway, so it'll fall and then it'll move. Yeah, that's better. It's going faster. So you'll get to see some movement. Yeah, so that's basically it. So this is how you can set up. And then once you've done that much, then we can use this to further generate hair. Okay, so I can just take this and put it into another hair generate. And again, I'll just pick up the base geometry from here and I can pick up the points, pick up the guides from there. And what you have to do is you just like turn off grow unguided hair. And we can just increase the influence radius till it sort of fills up the whole thing. And you can define like a little bit. Let's do one thing. Let's take a color and give it like random color. Okay, so I can just plug it in there. I can say random and primitive. And in order to pick up that color, you'll have to come to attribute and point attribute and pick up. Yeah, if you click that, it seems to be giving an error. So just type in CD and it should do that. Yeah, okay, let's do points. Anyway, so, okay, I seem to have lost the, yeah, let's calculate like 100 frames again. The nice thing about this now is that because you have the vellum solver, like it's still a DOPS node, but because it has been brought directly into SOP level and you don't even need to sort of like go inside it or anything, it makes all of these basic setups really simple. what earlier were fairly complex, now these setups are fairly simple to do. Yeah, and then if you want, we can take like a clump node. So let's take a hair clump. And let's do one thing. Let's just see what this is set at. Yeah, so again, you'll need the guides and you'll need the skin. Yeah, if they're looking a little weird like that, you need to set the clump mode to linear blend. Like extrude and blend looks a little bit weirder. And then you can just I can make it slightly thicker. Yeah, there you go. What you can do is, if you just want to give it some color, we can also try it out here. Like I can take a wrangle and I can try to do, let's get color from bounding box, and we'll have to recalculate again. But there you go. See, now it get color from bounding box. It looks a little bit better. Okay. So let me just recalculate it like one last time, and then I can just, play through it again. Yeah, so now that we've calculated everything, there you go. Like you can play this and see. So yeah, so this is how you can do vellum hair. So nothing overly complicated. Okay, I'm going to save these files and probably upload them. So I'll just save this here as vellum hair. Okay, so this is the basic. Okay, the next one we'll do is we'll take a look at cloth. Okay, so I'll take a simple grid and we'll increase it to about say 40 and 40. Or let's do one thing, let's remesh this. Okay, so we can get like a triangulated mesh. So I'll just take a remesh, like drop it in there. Yeah, and just lower the target length so it's relatively dense. Okay, and then I can take a transform and I will move it up a little. But before that, we'll also create a group to pin it. Okay, so I'll just press 2 and I'll pick, let's say, these 2 points, and we'll type in group and we'll call it pin. Okay, and then let's also take a rubber toy. Yeah, for collision. I'll just make it slightly smaller. Yeah. And then I can take a vellum cloth, and the process is mostly the same. You just come in here and you'll get the pin to animation and pick up pin, and you'll see like those little dots that are being formed. That's basically it. Okay. Yeah, you don't need to do more than that. And then we can take a vellum cloth. So we can take a vellum solver, and again just plug in both of these, and that's basically, if I press play, it should fall. Okay, it has this tendency to complicate things. Like I get like a ghost. There you go. So what I realized was, if I change any parameter, then it goes away. Okay, but yeah, let's also do one thing. Let's give it some color, just so that it's easier to see. Yeah, okay. Okay, so if I press play, and there you go. Now, along with this, what I can also do is, as I said, we'll bring in the test geometry here. So if I press play, it will hit that. It is really simple to set up, and the quality is actually quite good. So most of it is fairly simple. So if I come in here and I start to adjust things, like if I adjust stiffness, then it will be a lot more stiff. See, you can also increase like the damping ratio. Now this is basic. Now let's say if you want to sort of tear this, Okay, so that's fairly simple. What I can do is, let's come to the color, and you will get a new node called edge fracture. So click on edge fracture, and if you press enter, and in order to see it, because it doesn't show it readily, turn on primitive piece and switch on show guide geometry. So there you go. So these are the pieces that you have. If you want to see them, click on this little, like this location icon over there and see. So those are the pieces that you have, and you can increase them. And what you can do, which is interesting, is the group still remains, but what it has done is it has generated this new group called new points. Now, if I just directly go into the vellum solver and play this, what's going to happen is that, like, everything will just tear apart. So what if you want to stitch them together? Okay, so after the vellum cloth, take another vellum constraint. Okay, and we'll bring in like this and that in here. So these are the existing constraints, and then we will update them, and those flow back in here. We don't have to get in the third one. Okay, and then what you need to do here is this one will be called stitch points. Okay, and the target group, or hold on, like the group type is points, and we need to pick up new points. See, so there you go. So you're getting like these points getting stitched, and now if you play this, it won't break. It will remain stitched together. If you don't want to see the color anymore, just come back to the edge fracture and click here, and the color will disappear. So if you press play, see, there you go. So you'll get this. Now what you can do is you can do some basic stuff. Like if you come in here and you have the option for tearing. Okay, so if I just turn on the tearing and press play, so it has a threshold value. If it crosses that threshold value, see, it sort of starts to tear. But now what you can do is you can start to play around a little bit with attributes. So let's say if I increase the threshold so that it won't tear. But I wanted to tear wherever it is hitting. So you can say scale by attribute. Okay, and this is the attribute that we have. We have this thing called break threshold scale. You can change the name. So let's call it break. And we need to generate this attribute. So what I can do is, like, this has to be done before this. Okay. So I'm going to take, or hold on, let's do it after this. I'm not entirely sure. So let's take, first let's take a wrangle node. And we'll do it both, like either it should come in before that or after that, but okay. So I'll just do like f at break, which is equal to 1. Okay, hold on. What was it called? Break scale. And let's try to pick that. Let's do Control C. Yeah, okay. I think there must be something called break. But anyways, let's do one thing. Let's put it before this, and let's keep the value to 0. And let's play this and see what we get. See, so everything breaks. Okay. Yeah, so what it is doing is taking break scale, but even though there is a threshold value, since it's coming in by attribute and the attribute value is 0, it just breaks. Like if I turn that off to no scaling and press play, so now nothing breaks. And then if I say scale by attribute, then because the value is 0, everything breaks. So now what I can do is I can keep this value to 1. And then I can just take a simple paint node. So we'll take a paint node here. And this is going to be called break scale. So we'll just copy this. So I'll do Control C, come in here, say override color, and paste that attribute. And let's keep this value to like very low. And I can just come in here and paint it. Yeah, so these are the areas I want to break. Yeah, so hopefully if we have done this right, if I press play, So there you go. Now what you can do is, because you get these gaps in the middle, okay, like these are not very good. So what I realized was, yeah, let's just turn off that collide. Yeah, you should take a fuse. Okay, this is a bit of a trick. So just take a fuse and like increase the value till they all sort of weld together. Yeah, as it will break, they'll all move apart anyways, and then you'll get the stitch. But otherwise, it looks stitched. See, so now you don't get to see those. Like increase it enough till like everything is fine. Yeah. So then you don't get to see those gaps. Now you can also put in your own curves if you want. So that is also an option. Like if I come to the edge fracture and I'll do create in context, and if I type in curve, and let's say if I just draw my own curve, and what I can do is, like, I'll just duplicate this. So I'll do Control C, Control V, and you can put in your own edge fracture. See, so you're getting like, you can see the curve coming in. But if you just wanted to split using just the curve, turn off initial pieces. So you will just get, see that. Okay. The rest of it should automatically work because the points are being generated procedurally. But we'll have to adjust the paint again. So we'll take a paint and we'll just paint it again. So the same thing. No. Yeah. And very low. And just paint. Yeah, do one thing. Yeah, okay. So come back here, and if we press play, now you'll get like a, see. So there you go, like fairly simple stuff. So you can either tear using like the basic Voronoi fracture, or you can tear using custom curves. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and let's call this vellum cloth. And the last thing is grains. So grains is fairly simple. So I'm just going to take a sphere and I'll do points from volume. So just to fill it up with points. Okay, like not so many, just lower it a little. Okay. Also take a transform and we'll move it up. Okay. And then take a vellum grain, okay, and just plug that in, and there you go. It automatically sets up like the size and everything for it. And then we can just take a vellum solver. Now what you can do, which is interesting, is this has an inbuilt ground collider. So if I turn on ground position, you'll automatically get a ground collider. And if you press play, it will just, yeah, I think, whoa, okay, hold on. Let me just try to lower the grain size a little. Let's try 0.02. No, 0.06. Okay, let's press play. Okay, hold on. Let's jitter this a little bit. Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's better. It was too uniform. I think that's what was causing the problem. Okay, and then you can also come into like forces. You have inbuilt gravity, you have a little bit of wind, and I can just take, we can increase like the static threshold, so it becomes like the ground becomes a little rough, so it doesn't spread out too much. Hold on, dynamic scale. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so the nice thing here is that everything can also, because all of it is going through the same solver, everything can also interact, okay, which is what makes it interesting. Okay, so if let's say I want this to fall on a piece of cloth, so I can take a grid here, okay, and let's turn off the ground position. So I'm going to take the grid, we'll just increase the segments a little bit, and let's do a group. So I can just press 2 and we'll pick up 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yeah, and call it the same thing, pins, and we'll set up the vellum cloth. And set up the pins, and then we want to merge all of this together. Okay, so we have our cloth and we have our grains. Okay, and then what you can do is just take a merge. So I'm not sure about this, but the way I've been doing it is that you merge the cloth, you merge the geometry inputs, and then you also merge the constraint inputs. And then you bring them both in over here. And hopefully that should work. So turn off the ground position, and then if you press play, you'll see them both interact. Now, the one thing that I forgot to cover, which is actually pretty nice, is that you also have the option within the vellum solver to give it basic particle forces. Okay, so what you can do is, this is fairly simple. Just double click on the vellum solver and it will bring you in, and it will just say wire pop forces into this. So just take a force and you'll get pop force. And if I just plug this in and I'll give it some noise, okay, like we'll just increase the amplitude, and that's basically it. So if you press play, see, there you go. You should be able to see a little bit of noise sort of flowing through the whole thing. Or if we just bring this into like a cloth solver, if you just do the cloth, okay, like I can bring just this in. So I'm getting rid of the grains temporarily, and even in the group, I'll get rid of these 2 points. So if we press play, you'll get this, and let's go in and we'll increase the amplitude to like a fair bit. See, so there you go. So you'll get like a decent little. So if you want to do a flag or something, I think we can do that. Like I can turn off the gravity altogether, and I can do wind in Z axis. So let's try the wind to be like 4. And if you press play, so there you go. This is kind of stupid, but yeah. And give it a gravity of, let's say, -3. So it sort of falls a little bit. So yeah, everything can interact. Like that's the nicest thing about it. Like you can have all of it interact. I don't know how this will look now, but there you go. Yeah, that is not what we were expecting, but there you go. And you can see like when it moves and it hits the cloth, it does react. Anyway, so that's basically it. So this is everything as far as the basics of vellum are concerned. Like I haven't, as I said, like I installed it yesterday, but this is the first time like the dynamics network has been fairly simple. The few things, or the one major thing I haven't been able to figure out as yet is how to break constraints over time. Like how to animate breaking. Like let's say if you want to break it exactly at frame 35, if you animate the break threshold or anything, it doesn't seem to work. So there is something missing. Okay, like even at dynamics level, I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. But that will come in time. I think in a few days they'll probably also release some kind of a vellum masterclass, so that will help out a lot more. But until then, I think this is a decent enough starter. I think for about like say 60 to 70% of basic dynamics work, this is pretty good. Like this is a good enough place to start. You want to do like basic tearing, you want to do hair moving in the wind, you want to do basic grains and stuff. Like all of that sort of works out pretty decently without doing too many complicated things. I think if in the future they can also bring in like the bullet solver at SOP level, that will be great. Like rather than having like just keep the really complex stuff to DOPS, and if you can have like a basic bullet solver over here, like at geometry level, or like even the basic fluid solver at geometry level, I think it makes life a lot easier. You don't have to jump through multiple networks to do things. Like you can still do the complicated stuff and do that in DOPS, but for basics, I think this works out a lot better. So anyways, this is the basic. I'll upload all three of these files with this tutorial. And if you have any complicated questions, don't ask. I don't know. As I said, like I'm just starting to figure this thing out. As I figure out more complicated things, I will make more tutorials. But right now, this is it. Okay, so if you have basic questions, I can answer those. If you have complicated questions, find somebody smarter than me. I'm very sure they can figure out more. Yeah, so that's basically it.